friends, welcome back, or just welcome if you're new. My name is Emily, and today I'm going to do my 2020 yearly reading wrap-up. I got this little sweatshirt for Christmas, so I thought it was probably appropriate to wear it for this video. I'm very excited for this video. As you can see by my little message board here, I read 40 books this year, and to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't really think I was going to get there. I really thought with school and everything, I wouldn't be able to pull this off. Although I did count my school books in this 40 books, I still did read 40 books. I think what I'm gonna do is go through the books that I read based on how I rated them on Goodreads. So I'll start with like the lower ranked ones and then I'll move up to the higher ranked ones. So without further ado, let's get started. Also, side note, I will leave a list of all of the books that I read in the description, so if you don't want to hunt through the video again to find a book that I talked about that intrigued you, you can just go ahead and look in the description. I'm looking through my Goodreads ratings right now, and it looks like I didn't have any one-star reads this year, which is pretty exciting. Although I am kind of loath to give out 1 stars because I just feel like, I don't know, I don't really even have a reason. I just don't like giving out 1 stars. So I'm gonna start with my 2-star reads then, and I'm just gonna like quickly touch on kind of what I thought about them, obviously because I don't want this video to be a million years long because I do have 40 books to go through. And the first 2-star book that I'm going to talk about is Lost Children Archive by Valeria Luiselli. I read this one for school. It was like really not my favorite. I did not vibe with the narrator. I understand that the story was important. I just didn't like it. I actually did like a lot of the books that I read for school this year, so this one was kind of like a low point. The next 2-star read I have is Slaughterhouse-Five by Vonnegut. My friend recommended that I read this, and I was like, okay, I'll read it, and I had to fight my way through this. I didn't like it. I just didn't feel for our main character in the slightest. Wasn't that great. My next 2-star read is A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. I talked about this in one of the first videos on my channel. It was like a mid-year kind of review. Did not like this book. I knew that it was a novella, so I knew it was going to be a little bit different from the rest of the ACOTAR series, which, to be perfectly honest, is not that great in general. I liked some of the moments in here, some of the cute little fluffy stuff, but other than that, just wasn't super great. And my last 2-star read of the year is actually a DNF, or Do Not Finish, for those of you who are not familiar with the acronym. I probably shouldn't have counted this book, but it did feel like I read the whole thing because I just dragged myself through however many pages I read, and that book is Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody. Now, I was reading the Goodreads reviews of this one, and it was pretty either you love it or you hate it. Apparently, I hated it. I could not get through this book. I cared absolutely zero about N. She just was extremely annoying. Levi, couldn't really see him as a street lord, probably because I was comparing him to Kaz from Six of Crows, which I shouldn't have really been doing, but the book was advertised as House of the Rising Sun meets Six of Crows. It was advertised as that, so I was like, okay, that's gonna be really awesome. No. I did get about 100 pages in, so I gave it a good run. It made me feel kind of icky. I didn't really like the writing, and also the fact that Levi fit into like the bisexual stereotype of like can't keep it in his pants, which is super damaging, and didn't like that either. This one was a DNF. I did rate it because, again, I felt like I read the whole thing because it was just such a drag to get through. And I'm going to count it because this has been a hard year and I really wanted to reach my goal. So Ace of Shades wasn't for me. No hate if you liked it. I can definitely see the appeal. There was things about it that made me feel yucky. All right, we are off to my 3-star reads. First one that I want to talk about is Over 9 Waves by Heaney. This is a compilation of Irish like folktales and stories. I had to read this for one of my classes, and it was like okay, honestly. I didn't enjoy it as much as some of the other books that I read this year, but it was actually really interesting. If you do want to take a little bit of a dive into Irish legends and folklore, I would recommend this book. My next 3-star book is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Obviously, I like Leigh Bardugo's writing style. I think like is an understatement. I like gush about her writing in every video that I make about her books. But I just wasn't a huge fan of the way that the plot laid out. I didn't really like Alex, who's our protagonist. I have heard rave reviews about this, and everyone was super excited about her adult debut, and it was good, it just wasn't my favorite. Next on my 3 stars list is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I did really like this, however, I read it right after I read The Night Circus, and The Night Circus was honestly one of the best books that I have ever read. I was kind of expecting The Starless Sea to be really similar to that, and it wasn't. I did still really enjoy it. It just moved kind of slow for my taste. And usually I do like slow books, but this book is huge. Like this is a thick gal. It was really hard to get through a slow book that was like this long, but I obviously loved the magical library, and I loved Zachary and the messages of this book, and of course Erin Morgenstern's prose is completely impeccable. I would still definitely recommend reading it though. My next 3-star read is actually Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I read this book for a class last spring semester. It was pretty interesting. However, since I did read it for class and I kind of had to like cram reading it into like a whole week, I didn't really get time to savor it. I did like this book. It was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be, but I wish I would have had more time to savor it. Perhaps I will read it again just for fun and see if I can get anything new out of it, because I think that would be really interesting. Moving on to A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas as my next 3-star. I was totally bored in quarantine. Thought, you know what? Why not? Book Talk and Bookstagram and BookTube pretty much rave about these books all the time, so I thought I would give them a shot. Definitely not the best books ever written. However, it was an interesting story to kind of like get me through quarantine. The characters are pretty cool. Overall, the series was pretty good, but this first one, did not like it, really difficult to get through, and only at the end when Feyre was like under the mountain, that's when it started to get interesting, but a good like 5/6 of this book is not that. Bottom line, 3 stars. Not the best start to a series, but some good like character basis, and it was definitely a good way to pass the time during quarantine. And what do you know, my next 3-star read is A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, 3rd book in the ACOTAR trilogy. Holy moly, this book is massive. When I got it in the mail, I was shocked. I thought both of the books were going to be about the size of ACOTAR, but she's thick. So much to this book. And unfortunately, a lot of it was not all that important. I know that there's a lot of backstory that Sarah J. Maas has to get through because she did create a relatively complex world, but it was 3 stars, what can I say? My next 3-star read is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, before you come for me, okay, this is just not my favorite book. 2 of my friends and I decided that we were going to do a little Harry Potter book club. I think we only got through the 4th one. We did pretty well for the first 3, and this one is honestly just not my favorite out of the series. I think it might be my least favorite movie. I don't think it's my least favorite book, although I would have to, finish reading the rest of the series to actually have that opinion. And I know that like Sirius gets introduced in this one and there's Buckbeak and all of that stuff. It just like isn't my favorite. I don't know. Moving on to our next 3-star read here, which is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Now this might come as a shock to you that I rated a Grishaverse book less than like 5 stars or whatever. Here's the deal, okay? The fact is that this book just felt a little bit flat. I was still trying to get into the groove of getting to know Alina and Mal and the Darkling and just the world that Leigh Bardugo had created, and I ended this book really enjoying the series, but the way that it stacks up to the rest of the books and just the fact that it was a little bit difficult to get into, just at first kind of put it at 3 stars for me. All right, I had a lot of 3-star books. Holy moly. My next 3-star book, as you can tell by the empty space in my bookshelf right above me, is Girl, Serpent, Thorn by Melissa Bashardoust. This was the first review video that I did on my channel. I went into depth on this book and my feelings about it in that video, so if you want to check that out for a more extended discussion, then definitely go ahead and do that. But basically, I liked the story, I liked the characters, I just wasn't a huge fan of the writing style. It felt kind of flat, and I just kind of felt like I didn't know Soraya, who's our protagonist. However, I did still really enjoy it, and this is when I finally started to tab my books. It's just gonna get worse. It's just gonna get more chaotic throughout the year. My next 3-star read I don't actually have with me. I gave to my mom to read, but it is called Preach to Yourself by Hayley Morgan. So this is kind of like a self-help book, I suppose. I don't really like to call it a self-help book. I just feel like it's more of like an encouraging, kind of uplifting piece about how to talk to yourself when you're feeling down and trying to get rid of that negative self-talk and replace it with positive self-talk. I found it really helpful. I found it really interesting. It also correlates to my faith, which was really important for me, so I really did like this book. It is 3 stars though, just because it wasn't quite as engaging as a lot of the other books that I read this year, although that is, I guess, a result of it being more of a nonfiction, self-help, encouraging book. It was really, really helpful for me. So if you are looking for a book kind of like that, I would definitely recommend Preach to Yourself. Moving on, we have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. After I finished the ACOTAR series, I was like, okay, I'm kind of in the Sarah J. Maas mood. I'll start her other series, the Throne of Glass series. Little did I know that this series was like, what, 7, 8 books long? That's crazy. I did buy the first 3, thinking that, I would immediately jump into it. Unfortunately, I really didn't. I read Throne of Glass. I liked it, relatively well, as you can see by the things that I tabbed. but then I tried to start reading Crown of Midnight like 3 times and I just couldn't get into it. I think maybe now is not the time for me to read the Throne of Glass series. That's probably gonna have to come at a later date, but it was good. It was good fun. I enjoyed it. I like Selena. I like Dorian. I really like Dorian. I liked Kale. I know that that's kind of controversial from what I can tell, but I did like Kale, so sue me. I just thought it was a good book, but you know, not as good as the other ones I read this year, hence the 3 stars. Next, I have another self-help book that is a big old 180 from Preach to Yourself, which is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark Manson. This one I picked up at Target because I was like, you know what? I might as well. I've heard good things about it, so I might as well just try it. And it was pretty divisive, honestly. Some of the things that Mark Manson was saying, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm on board with that, you know, like, don't care what other people think and just do you. And then there were some points that he was making where I was like, how did that get published? You know what I mean? I thought it was good. It just wasn't my favorite. Okay, we're almost done with 3 stars. I have 2 more left, I promise. We're getting there. Wicked Saints by Emily Duncan is another 3-star read. Sort of liked it, as you can see. I do have a video about this, so again, if you want a more extended discussion about this book, you can go check that out. I liked it. I thought the world was nice and I thought the characters were cool, but there were just a couple of things with the plot and a little bit with like the writing style that I didn't super vibe with. 3 stars, still good though. And my last 3-star read. It has been a long journey with these 3 stars here, but the final 3-star goes to Paradise Lost by John Milton. I read this book for a class. We spent the entire class looking at Paradise Lost and diving into it really deeply and talking about all of the implications. I did really like this, actually. It was really interesting to read. It was really interesting to come at it from a perspective of my faith background and my faith practice, and then take a look at how other people were viewing it from their faith backgrounds or lack thereof. It was just a really interesting discussion that we were able to have. I'm glad that I read this. I think it really actually improved my writing skills and my reading comprehension and analysis. It was a really important thing to read, a good class to take. I enjoyed it. If you're looking for something challenging, this is definitely the way to go. Alrighty friends, we are on to our 4-star reads. The first one is actually a book that I read for class. I don't have it with me because I rented it, but it is called A is for Asylum Seeker by Rachel Ida Buff. It goes through the alphabet. It talks about a bunch of terms that are related to like immigration and border crossing. It talks about firsthand accounts. It talks about a lot of the experiences that migrants have had as they're trying to cross the border. It really opened my eyes to a lot of the things that are happening in this country and in other countries regarding borders and immigration and all of that stuff. Super, super interesting book. I would highly recommend checking it out. Next book, still don't have it, but it's 4 stars, The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. That is by Marianne Schaffer and Annie Barrows. This book was just so heartwarming. There's romance and there's just heartfelt family connections and found family. It's a fantastic book. Absolutely 100% recommend. My next 4 stars, once again, don't have it with me, Knitting the Fog by Claudia D. Hernandez. It is a prose and poetry kind of mix. It's like a memoir as well of Hernandez's experience with immigrating from Guatemala to the United States. Super, super interesting and very powerful. Hernandez is truly an incredible writer. Once again, 4 stars, really good. I've been talking about all of this serious stuff with my 4-star reads, and now we're going again to Sarah J. Maas with A Court of Mist and Fury. I actually did enjoy this book. I really like that kind of political intrigue and those tete-a-tetes and the meetings and the chatting and all of that stuff. I think it's really interesting. So Court of Mist and Fury was full of a lot of that. It was also full of Feyre kind of coming into her own and becoming herself. There was a lot of Faysend in here, which was really awesome. And of course, the quintessential well-loved trope of there was only one bed. Next 4-star read, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I don't really know what I can say about this one. People have said a million things about it. I like it. I really think that J.K. Rowling's writing is not that fantastic, and we just like it because of nostalgia. J.K. Rowling herself is not that fantastic, so we really just like Harry Potter because of the nostalgia. But bottom line, 4 stars. Thumbs up. And of course, we also have Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets as another 4-star. I just really like their early years at Hogwarts. I think it's like really sweet and just kind of adventurous before it gets dark, which the darkness is obviously important and intriguing and compelling, but I just like the little light adventures that they get to have in the first couple books. Next 4-star read, So Far From God by Anna Castillo. Basically, this follows 4 girls and their mother as they kind of contend with magic in their hometown and within themselves. They talk about the lack of magic and how that affects them and how their lives have been changed by this magic. This is actually really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. It's very powerful. The messages are awesome. Definitely recommend it. Next on my 4-star list, I have Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. Again, did a review on this. Go check it out if you would like to, but Basically, I was just really excited about the sci-fi and the insta-love. I know that normally insta-love is something that people usually don't like. I usually don't like it either, but I just thought it was kind of cute in this book. It was good. I would definitely recommend reading it. And I did realize that I missed a 3-star. I'm pretty sure I rated this 3.5 actually, but it's the sequel to Unearthed, which is Undying. Not quite as good as Unearthed. I missed the space feel because they ended up on Earth in this book, but still good. I really thought that the characterization of Mia and Jules was really cool, and it was consistent throughout the 2 books, which is always a nice thing to see. My next 4-star reads I'm going to do together, and those are Siege and Storm and Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo, which are the 2nd and 3rd books in the Grisha trilogy. Also, side note, I know that I say Grisha wrong, but I've been saying it Grisha and not Grisha, so I'm just going to keep saying Grisha. Sorry. Anyway, back to the books. Siege and Storm, Nikolai comes in. And if you have watched literally any of my videos, you know how much I love Nikolai Lantsov. Currently reading King of Scars, and he is 100% the love of my life. Obviously, I really liked these 2 books, as you can see by all of my annotations. I thought that Alina's descent into darkness and then eventual explosion back into light was so cool. I really enjoyed all of the political intrigue. The Darkling is a terrifying villain, I'll say it, and Mal's characterization and his transitions and his journey, really cool. I know a lot of people are not huge fans of Mal and they would rather have Alina end up with the Darkling or with Nikolai or whatever, but first of all, if you want Alina to end up with the Darkling, I think we need to have a discussion because that scares me a lot. And if you want Alina to end up with Nikolai, I can respect that a little bit more, but I did really come to like Mal and Alina together. I really came to like Mal as a character. He really kind of came into his own, so this is fantastic. Really liked these. Also, I am ecstatic for the Shadow and Bone show that's coming out in April. That's like 4 months from now. That's crazy. I'm beyond excited. And my next 4-star read is All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. Picked it up because it had pirates in it and was very pleasantly surprised at the rest. Really awesome magic system, really awesome world. The sequel comes out in February, I think. It's called All the Tides of Fate, and I'm so excited about it. The cover is gorgeous. So good. And for our last 4-star read of the year, I have Dead Blondes and Bad Mothers by Sadie Doyle. This was so interesting. This kind of delved into like the horror scene of media, so like books, movies, TV shows, all of that stuff. And it talked about the monsterization of women and how people view women as monsters and how women are kind of bucking the stereotypes and trying to come into their own and be their own person. It's talking about how femininity can't really be put in a box and how there are all different types of women who lead different types of lives, and all of those lives are totally valid. This is just such a fantastically written book. I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. Finally, we are on to our 5-star reads. All of these books totally blew me out of the water, knocked my socks off. So fantastic. I'm not even going to say that I recommend reading all of them after I talk about each one because it really goes without saying. All of these are so incredible, so please make sure to check them out. First one I want to talk about is Called on the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. Technically, I probably shouldn't have counted this book as one that I read this year because I finished it on like January 2nd. I read most of it before in 2019. However, I am going to count it, first of all, because it's just so good and I want to talk about it, and second, this is my reading challenge and I get to make the rules. This book is absolutely amazing. Ronan and Adam are simply heartbreaking, but I love them so much, and all of the new characters in here are really compelling and really interesting. So beyond excited for Mr. Impossible, which is the sequel that comes out in May. My next 5-star read is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. The Night Circus like changed my life. This is just so good, and there's a little bit of a love letter to writing stories and creating at the end. It's just such an incredible book. I actually got a candle for Christmas that is like reminiscent of the scent of the circus, so like the caramel popcorn and the apples and the chestnuts and all of that stuff. It's burning right now as I'm making this video. It smells delightful. The candle is from Frostbeard Studio if you want to check it out. I'll actually put the link in the description. Night Circus, I was gonna say 10 out of 10, but it's 5 stars. Next 5-star read, as once again you can see by the lovely empty space on my bookshelf here, is Aurora Burning by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This book, wow, I was like crying by the middle. This is incredible, so good. Also the art, are you joking? Cal? Chef's kiss. I literally cannot wait for Aurora 3. We're gonna get the title soon and the cover, which is I'm beyond excited about. Also, the cliffhanger that this book ended on, holy moly. Next 5-star read I don't have with me because I lent the entire series to my friend for Christmas break, but it is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm doing a reread. Well, I was doing a reread before I got caught up with school, but basically, obviously, I've talked about The Raven Boys a bunch of times, I think. I might actually not have talked about the Raven Boys that much. The Raven Cycle is one of my favorite series. It might actually be my favorite. Maggie Stiefvater is such an incredible writer, and the Raven Boys is just such an awesome way to kickstart the series. It's so engaging, and of course, Maggie Stiefvater's prose is amazing. And to follow that up, Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater is another 5-star. Second book in the Raven Cycle. Really, really good. I don't really know what I can say about it. It follows Ronan mostly, which is fantastic. If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Wow. So good. 5 stars, obviously. I was so engaged on every single page of this book. The narration style, fantastic. The content, wow. Super exciting, super like a little bit scary at times. And also the Shakespeare, oh please, so good. I am kind of a Shakespeare nerd, I guess. So seeing all of like the stuff that I have read before in this book in a different context, mind-blowing. The romance, so good. Just I can't say enough good things about this. Raybearer by Jordan Afueco, far and away a 5-star read. This was one of the most incredible books I read this year. Such a diverse cast and such a fantastic message and a really strong protagonist, lots of representation. So good. Literally so good. I can't wait for the sequel. I really loved it, obviously. And I mean, the cover is gorgeous. Once again, can't say enough good things about Raybearer. If you haven't read it yet, please go read it. One of the best YA fantasies I've read in a really, really long time. My next 5-star read made me cry like a little baby for like 30 minutes after I finished it, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This, what just blew my mind. The way that Madeline Miller writes is so gorgeous. Patroclus and Achilles, please. If I had somebody who loved me like that, I don't know what I would do. I think I would just spontaneously combust. This book is so good. The romance is awesome. It's such a really, really cool, in-depth, and very emotional retelling of the story of Achilles and Patroclus and all of their, adventures with the Trojan War and all of that stuff. So heartbreaking and so good. I can't wait to read Circe. I'm hooked on Madeline Miller now. And the last book that I'm going to count for my yearly wrap-up is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. Now, I have not finished this quite yet, but I'm getting there. See, here's my bookmark. So this is what I've read so far. I'm probably almost halfway there, and I already have this many tabs in it. And most of them are Nikolai's one-liners, which I think is hilarious. I literally made a note to myself. I was like, girl, you can't tab every single one of Nikolai's one-liners, but I just want to remember them all. They're so good. And of course, we have Leigh Bardugo, master of dialogue. All of the exchanges in this book are just impeccable. They're fantastic. And her world is so easy to slip into once you've gotten into it. I know I talked about that it was a little bit hard to get used to in Shadow and Bone, but once you know the world, again, so easy to get back into it, and it just feels like you never left. It's so cool. I have no doubts that I'm going to rate this 5 stars, so I'm putting it in the 5-star section, and I also have no doubts that I will finish this before the year is up. So this counts as my 40th book. Okay, despite the absolutely insane year we have had, it's been a relatively good reading year for me. I mean, I set this goal back in last December, so December 2019, not knowing anything that was going to happen in 2020. So the fact that I did meet this goal, at least one thing went the way that I planned for it to go this year. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you saw a book that you really liked that you read this year, or a book that you didn't like that you read this year, make sure to leave it in the comments. We can have a little discussion about it. I always like to talk to you guys. But again, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you so choose, and I will see you in the new year. Happy reading!